Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this joint executive member decision session. This is the first time we're doing the decision session in this format, so please bear with us if we get anything slightly wrong as we go through, but we'll endeavour to cover everything. The first item on our agenda is to appoint a chair, so I'm going to do the opening items on the agenda, and I will chair for item 6 and item 7, and then I'll hand over the chair to Councillor Kent for item 8. So hopefully that's okay with everyone. We have no apologies for absence. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Then we'll skip straight on to minutes, and we have a number of sets of minutes to approve. Health, Wellbeing and Adult Social Care exec member decision session on the 21st of February, Children, Young People and Education decision session on the 14th of January, Housing, Planning and Safer Communities decision session on 5th of February, Health, Wellbeing and Adult Social Care decision session on 21st of February, Economy and Culture decision session on 25th of March, Executive Leader decision session on the 23rd of April, and my decision session that was heard on the 24th of April. I don't believe there are any corrections to be made, so we'll approve those minutes if everyone is happy to. That's great, and we'll now move on to public participation. And I'll note at this point that we have received a written representation which has been published on the website, but we also have a speaker, Mr. Steve Lilly. So if you want to come to the table, Mr. Lilly, and if you press the little microphone button, and you'll have 3 minutes. That's it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name's Steve Lilly. I live on Claremont Terrace, and I am a representative of the Gilligate Air Quality Action Group. And we just wanted to sort of come along today just to really sort of primarily sort of give our support to the item which is coming on a little bit later in relation to air quality. We've been involved with the council for sort of the last 2.5 years or so, looking at how we can improve air quality in Gilligate. And then it's really quite gratifying to see that, in fact, the documents, which in fact are going to be sort of talked about later and accommodated later, are actually sort of indicate improvements in air quality in Gilligate, which is great. And we're very pleased about that. We're also very pleased about the commitment of the council to involve us, the community, in actually looking towards achieving progress. Sorry, excuse me. Looking for progress on air quality and on traffic management in the street. And you may well be aware, I'm sure you are, that in fact there's currently a year-long trial taking place looking at the impact of sort of changes in traffic light sequences. And the anecdotal evidence from that does suggest that in fact there are improvements in the traffic, in the amount of stationary traffic, certainly less of it, or there seems to be. And that is likely to have a knock-on effect, we would hope, in relation to the air quality there. I'd like to personally thank Mike for his hard work over the years, because he's had to front up some pretty awful statistics, and it's good for him to actually have the opportunity to front up some improving statistics. We're really pleased with the council's commitment to going further through the movement in place plan. We do need to emphasise that it's a little bit worrying for us that there seems to have been a delay on progressing the further measures which have been discussed, talked about in the movement and place plan. In particular, we were hoping that by now there will be consultants who would have been appointed to actually sort of start to look at the traffic circulation throughout the city. And we were hoping that in fact we would perhaps be able to relate with them, and so that they can actually understand and consider our problems and look at further solutions for Gilligate as we move forward. I understand the politics of things and the financial difficulties which you actually have, but from the point of view of our group, it is really, really important that in fact we can move forward on this as soon as possible. And we would like some sort of clear information as soon as possible about where you are with the development of this, and when in particular, or if these consultants are going to be there for us to actually speak to. Final thing I'd just like to say is that we are, sorry, have I still got enough time? Okay. We are a community group. We've got a lot of support from residents. We've been to every single business in the street to talk to them. We had a very well supported meeting in January to actually sort of put the whole agenda on the everything on the agenda. There's a lot of positive support for actually moving forward on these issues, and we feel that in fact it's a good thing for the council to actually be involved with us as well. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'm sure that Councillor Kent will address those points when we get to that item on the agenda. Thanks. You. Okay, we'll next move on to item number 6, the Gypsy and Traveller Action Plan Annual Update. And I'll invite Laura Williams to start us off on this one.
Thanks. So since 2021, the council has had a Gypsy and Traveller working group, which is made up of representation from across the council: education, housing, community safety, communities, public health, along with the executive member, and then representation from the Travellers Trust, looking at ways essentially to improve outcomes in a cohesive way for the traveller community. Last year, it was decided that rather than have a strategy again, which had happened in kind of preceding years, that the preference would be for an action plan, which would come annually and would hold our feet to the fire more in terms of delivering actions within a 12-month period and seeing some real progress. So in May last year, we brought the initial action plan to executive, and this is the just over 12-month follow-up on that report. It's been very slightly delayed just in terms of meeting times, but fortuitously it's landed on the 3rd of June. So we're 3 days into Gypsy Roma Traveller History Month. And I just thought it was important to reflect that whilst the report talks a lot about deprivation and lesser outcomes for those communities and the things that we're doing to address that, it's really important to take time in Gypsy and Traveller History Month, I think, to talk about how we can move forward and tackle prejudice and celebrate the achievements and talents of those communities. And as a result of this working group, we have a smaller group of volunteers who've joined together to, over the coming 12 months, prepare us to do much more significant celebration of Gypsy Roma Traveller History Month in 2026. One of the significant outcomes from the action plan last year was to employ an accommodation officer in housing for Gypsy and Travellers, and Jenny's here with us today, and I think she's going to talk briefly about some of the work that she's been doing over the past 12 months.
So hi, I'm Jen Halliwell. I've been here almost 1 year, shy of 1 week, and I've been very busy over the last year. The first major task I underseen was actually speaking to all the residents. I've managed to do a survey with 75%, well, just over 75% of all the residences on the Gypsy and Traveller sites in York, which has come back with some very interesting and important information. As well as that, the information on there has helped us to discuss retrofit. All the buildings, the 61 buildings, 7 different types of buildings across all of them. We've now had 2 retrofit assessments by 2 specialists, and we're at the stage where we're working through proposals as to what work needs to be done on each individual building. At the same time, I've also been writing a bid for the Carbon Neutral Fund for North Yorkshire Authority. We're in the final stages of that, and the final application goes in on the 20th, which I am very hopeful for. If we do get that additional funding, it means that we can do a lot of work extremely quickly on the retrofit. Without the additional work, we can still bring up the dwellings to a level C EPC. At the moment, they're standing at E to F, but we can certainly get them up to a D to C without the additional funding. With the additional funding, we're even more hopeful that we can actually achieve A in some of the buildings, but certainly between A and B for all of the buildings. We were going to do a trial because one of the buildings became vacant, which is very, very rare. But unfortunately, due to the demand of the residents needing to get in quickly, we had to abandon that. And that's why we're now going with another retrofit specialist who has come forward with the proposals based on the assessments that we've already submitted to them. And I have a meeting this afternoon with York's Steve Aston to discuss moving forward with that ASAP, going to tender and trying to get the work started this summer would be the ideal. As well as that, I've been working on the road safety at Oswaldwick, which needs a lot of attention to make it safer. We're currently at the stage of we're working on a feasibility report with transport. We want to do as much of the work as we can in-house because it will be the quickest solution to get that as safe as possible. Whilst that feasibility report is being worked on, there are things we can do in the meantime to make the road safer, and that's going to happen very, very soon. And this includes taking back all of the overgrowth on top of what at the moment are not visible pathways, but there are actually pathways there that will be done very, very soon, so we can start using them straight away. The aim is, regardless of what obstacles come our way, that we get that road lit for the darker nights. Any additional work after the feasibility report comes in, we can do that, but that is certainly the aim and the most necessary thing that we need to do before the dark nights come in. My relations with the residents are very, very good. There is a noticeable shift to welcoming work from the City of York Council, and that includes different areas, including repairs, who the teams have been out with me to speak to the families individually, to introduce them so they can have a proper relationship and a proper rapport, and can speak to, they know exactly who to talk to if they need to, and that work has been going great. CCTV, unfortunately, was something that I wanted to have sorted out this year for Clifton. The other two sites have CCTV at the entrance of their sites, apart from Clifton. But unfortunately, in the last week, City Fibre, after months of working together, have decided that it's not a project that they want to persist on. So that is something that we're going to have to revisit, because 100% of the residents in Clifton are asking for CCTV for safety reasons. There isn't 5G in that area, but there's got to be something we can do to do that. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time my team has experienced City Fibre pulling out after months of negotiation, but we will do something alternative to make sure that the residents do feel safer. And that's it for now, really.
Great, thanks so much. And it's great to hear about all the work you've been doing in the just under a year that you've been in post, Jen. Councillor Pavlovic.
Thank you, Chair. As people will know, this is a joint portfolio with myself and Councillor Lomas. And from my perspective and my area, I feel that we've made a real shift over this past 2 years, not least the fact that we now have an action plan rather than a strategy that didn't actually really going anywhere, and the liaison meetings that we have, which are incredibly well attended, and it's another really good example of cross-council working to say, you know, we know that there are multiple and complex issues with the community, and we all want to come together to try to find solutions. So, you know, I am very grateful for all the time, effort, and that colleagues put in. And Jen coming in post, I think, has been incredibly positive, and the feedback that I get, not just from the Travellers Trust, but from others, is that you have really made those inroads into a community that has been distrustful of authority, and very often for, I think, quite good reason. But we have made inroads with GP practices. We've made inroads with housing and housing repairs. The fact that we now have a stock condition survey that's been done, I think, has been incredibly positive, and Jen's described all the work that we're going to be doing on the sites in respect of making them warmer, safer, and that will also improve health outcomes. The biggest difference, I think, has been the change in emphasis, that we know that marginalised groups that have been underinvested in for, quite frankly, donkey's years, are now having the money that they should have been having for years. The £5 million that we've put into in the last budget was done to address the issues of underinvestment and, quite frankly, scandalous conditions that some of the traveller sites and the travellers that have lived within those sites have had to experience. We've got a long way to go. This action plan is the first annual update. You'll see how many of the outcomes have been met, not all of them, and there will be others, and we will develop others. But with the work of Jen and Laura, and I must just really commend Laura and her teams for the really diligent and very caring and compassionate approach that they've taken to this work. So the recommendations are on page 31, paragraph 11. I'm going to pass over to Councillor Lomas for her comments, but I'm happy to accept those recommendations.
Thanks, Councillor Pavlovic. And I echo all of your praise for the team in turning around what has been a really difficult situation for a number of years. Great to hear all the positives. Great to see the action plan for the coming year as well, with, you know, ongoing actions and new actions on there that'll build on the work already done. And I'm also happy to approve those recommendations, which is to note the work undertaken since the report to executive in May last year, and to approve the action plan for the next 12 months, which is Annex A in the report. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on now to item 7, which is on the Household Support Fund number 7. And there's a lot of 7s in there. I was just checking I was saying it right. And I'll hand over to David Walker to present that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, indeed, we are on 7 now. We have had a lot of grants. They started before 7, actually, if we go back as early as the COVID ones. So this is the Household Support Fund 7, which is a government grant. The government has made 742 million available to councils this year. Of that, City of York Council received 1.8 million, which is approximately 10% less across the year than what we received in 24-25. So there's a small cut in that, but at least they gave a 12-month grant this time. As all these grants are, you should spend the money by the 31st of March, so the grant needs to be spent by the 31st of March. The primary objective is the same as the previous Household Support Fund grant in terms of providing crisis support to vulnerable households and those most in need of the cost of essentials. The secondary objective in this one was around preventative support to try and help vulnerable households from falling into or falling further into arrears. So the primary, as I said, the primary core was around qualifying residents and helping them with energy, bills, food, the scheme in itself, sorry, is set out paragraph 16. So we were again making direct payments to residents in respect of 2 areas. One was support with council tax, customers on council tax support. And that was to both CTS customers and people with carers and SMI disregards and disability related band reductions. The first payments actually go out this month onto the bills, so people's bills will be adjusted. I think it's the 6th for payers who pay on the 1st of the month, and the 16th, 15th of payers who pay on the second part of the month. We're also doing again direct payments to the same customers, plus those on full SMI who don't get council tax in the second half of the year. So that's where we've done the cash first payments. So that's another further direct £100 payment directly into customers' bank accounts. As always, we have to have a discretionary scheme. So there is a discretionary scheme set up for people to apply to. We've again put some money into the food and fuel vouchers, which have proved particularly effective over the last 3 or 4 years in providing support to residents. We again put money into community food support and provision of warm places. We put additional capacity in around using the data we're getting out of the low income family tracker, the LIFT data, and that's in terms of preventative measures. We put some reports out recently about the effect of the work we've been doing in there, both in terms of benefits take up and especially in terms of pension credit, where we can see the amount of money coming into households increasing. We're putting additional community benefits advisor in, and also some data-led work around council tax arrears. A lot of this work's linked into other things we're doing. So we're trying to work with the university on looking at how we deal with people falling into council tax arrears, to the letters that we use and sums that we use. And of course, apart from the support we're using through HF7 in terms of preventative measures, that sort of links into the £100,000 FIS grants that we give to organisations to provide support and guidance and help people who have fallen into debt. So it's part of and not forgetting that YFAS also feeds into there. So there's quite a large support mechanism, which forms a key part of it because we're able to give the cash grants and the council tax support, but it's part of a bigger welfare process that we manage. So finally, just coming back to the recommendation, we're asking you to ratify this scheme because we had to get it on the 1st of April, so it was made as an officer decision back on the 25th of March. Thank you very much. I hope I haven't gone on too long about what we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. It's much appreciated, all the work that everyone's doing, not just within the council, but across the city to continue to support people who are experiencing the impact of the cost of living crisis more than others. It's great also to see the results that have come from using the lift data, because you know that was a phenomenal result for people in the city when we looked at just the pension credits alone. You know, achieving more than £10.5 million worth of income for people across the city was a real positive. And I think that strategy across using Household Support Fund, YFAS, the financial inclusion grants, all of those different mechanisms, and bringing together partners across the city to make sure we have a joined up approach is fantastic. I'm very happy to ratify the scheme that was set out, and it's great to know that some of the payments have already been paid as we sit here today. So much appreciated and very happy to ratify that. Thank you. And at this point, I will hand over to Councillor Kent for item 8.
Thank you, Councillor Lomas. So I move to item 8, and I'm very pleased to introduce Officer Mike Southcombe to talk to our 2024 air quality figures and update report.
Thank you. The report summarises the latest air quality monitoring data throughout York and provides an update on progress with measures in our 4th Air Quality Action Plan to improve air quality in York. The annual air quality status reports are a statutory requirement for local authorities, and these reports have to be formally endorsed by the executive member before submission to DEFRA at the end of the month. The picture for 2024 was very positive. We saw significant improvements in nitrogen oxide concentrations across York in 2024 when we compare it with previous years. 2024 is the first year and the only year since the pandemic in 2020 that we saw pollution levels at all monitoring locations meet for health-based air quality objectives. The maximum concentration of nitrogen dioxide recorded in 2024 within our air quality management area, that's the city centre area where we've historically had poor air quality, was 32 micrograms per metre cubed, and that was on Blossom Street, and that compares with a legal limit of 40. This compares with previous years where Gillygate was the worst area of air quality in York, and that was 43 microgram per metre cubed in 2023. Turning to Gillygate, there were particularly noticeable improvements in that area where maximum concentrations fell by 27% between 2023 and 2024. We suspect most likely due to a combination of factors, but probably the largest of these was the new fleet of electric buses operating on this route. And I'm pleased to see that Mr. Lilly is here today to talk about the work of the Gillygate Air Quality Action Group. We thank them, local businesses and others interested in air quality in that area for working with us to improve air quality. And obviously there's still more for us to do in the future in that particular area. In terms of particulate matter, that's the very small particles that get down into our lungs and alveoli and our bloodstream. These were also within the health-based objectives in 2024. We did, however, see some increases in particulate in 2024 at some sites, and this could be related to regional background sources, particulates from outside York, but the overall trend is still downwards. The full report provides a lot of detail on our monitoring sites and a full update on progress in our 4th Air Quality Action Plan. And just at this point, I'd just like to take this opportunity to really thank some of my colleagues over the years, some of whom are still working with the team and some of whom have left, and they've been working tirelessly over I've been here for 25 years and some of them have been here longer than that. Worked tirelessly despite significant trials and often significant opposition to some of the measures that we put forward. And I'd just like to mention Andy Geller, who's still with us, who's done a lot of work in terms of policy and strategy measures. Liz Bates, who is our other principal air quality officer, who now works for Bradford. Jordan Walters, who left us recently. His predecessor, Chris Parkinson, and others who have assisted in strategy, policy, monitoring of air quality, and dealing with complaints over the years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. I couldn't be more happy to see these results and to read this report. So I also want to pay tribute to yourselves and your team for the huge hard work that's gone into this over many years. I want to restate what you've just said, just because it's so important, which is that this is the first time, apart from during COVID, that York has met all across the whole city, all the government targets for healthy air or non-polluted air, depending on whether you want to put a positive or negative spin on it. And particularly the reduction in maximum levels of nitrogen dioxide at the previous hotspots of Bootham and Gillygate by around 27% is a significant reduction, I should say. And I do want to also point out some of the actions that have been taken as part of our commitment to improving air quality. You've mentioned the bus fleet, which is significant. First Bus, we're really happy to support them and vice versa. They're the first fleet outside London to be fully electric and the first depot, fully electric depot. We made a commitment ourselves to have electric vehicles, and we're currently on 60% of our under 3.5 ton fleet being fully electric. I hope by the end of this year that will be nearly 100% with future procurement. Our anti-idling measures, a wonderful campaign that I know yourself and Andy and the team put together, which encourages people to turn off their engines when they're stationary or waiting in traffic. We've got policies to encourage the uptake of low emission taxis. And Mr. Lilly, thank you for coming along. It's really great to have you here because this is very much a joint effort. The council is determined to improve the health and well-being for all, but we couldn't do it without the partnerships we have, and this is coming from residents because we all need this. But this is not a council doing things to the residents of York, it's doing it in partnership with them. And the support for the local transport policy, which we brought forward last year, 73% of the respondents to our big consultation were in full support of helping change the way we move around, bearing in mind 1 in 4 people in York don't have a car. None of our children have cars. And yet we want everybody to be able to walk and wheel and cycle around freely, breathing clean air. But we also want to be able to enable people who have to make journeys by car to be able to do so. Essential travel is vital. And the support we have for our bus network is coming forwards with a consultation later on this month on a sustainable travel corridor, which I hope people who are watching or who hear about it will take part in. But the support of residents is vital, and it's because of that that we do this, and that's what I want to celebrate today. Paragraphs, if people are interested, paragraphs 30 to 43 outline all the actions that we've taken to get to where we are now, but we're not stopping there. Paragraphs 44 to 55 are the priorities for the next year, because it's important to remember that these figures are for last year. And you've heard about the Gillygate air quality trial, which I'm really pleased is taking place with all your full support and hard work, because I know you and businesses and residents have put in an awful lot of effort to publicise it and help measure various different traffic controls at various times. And there has been some confusion in the press that people have attributed last year's figures to this year's air quality trial in Gillygate. I just want to be really clear that these are figures which are a fantastic achievement for last year, before the trial started. And as Mr. Lilly noted, anecdotally, the air quality trial in Gillygate is going well. I want to assure people that measurements across the city are being measured, so it wouldn't just be a success. It would only be a success if not only did we achieve better air in Gillygate, but that wasn't displacing worse air elsewhere, and that is being monitored in other areas like Lord Mayor's Walk. So only time will tell, and I'm really keen to see the data for that at the end of this year. We're not complacent. This is great, but we're not complacent. As I say, the paragraphs 44 to 55 outline a lot of new measures we want to take to continue this improvement, because until we see this downward trend continue, particularly for small particulates, and make it business as usual, our job's not done. But this is such a fantastic achievement. I do think we should take a moment today to celebrate, congratulate officers and residents for the hard work and the great partnership we've formed to achieve better health for everybody across York together. And thank you very much. I should say, I'm very happy to note the contents at paragraphs 57 and approve submission of the full ASRs to DEFRA.
Thank you.
I don't think there's any other business. So with that, I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you, everybody.